Maya Johnson was 16 years old, and she loved books more than anything else in the world. Every Saturday morning, she would walk to the Greenwood Public Library, which was only 10 blocks from her home. The library was her favorite place. It was quiet, peaceful, and full of stories that could take her anywhere she wanted to go. On this particular Saturday, the sun was shining bright and warm. Maya had put on her favorite blue dress and her white sneakers. She carried her school backpack, which had 3 library books inside that were due back today. She was excited because the librarian, Mrs. Patterson, had told her that a new book in her favorite series had finally arrived. Maya walked down Maple Street with a smile on her face. She said hello to Mr. Garcia, who was watering his flowers, and waved at the Thompson kids who were playing in their front yard. This was a nice neighborhood. Maya had lived here all her life, and she knew almost everyone. When she reached Main Street, Maya noticed a police car parked on the corner. A white officer was standing outside his car, watching people walk by. Maya did not think much of it. She had seen police officers before, and her father had always told her to be polite and respectful to everyone, including the police. The officer's name was Derek Rawlings. He was 32 years old and had been on the police force for 8 years. Rawlings had grown up in a small town where there were not many black families. He had learned certain ideas from his father and grandfather, ideas that were wrong and unfair. He did not see all people as equal, and this made him a dangerous man with a badge. Rawlings watched Maya walk down the sidewalk. He saw a young black girl with a backpack, and immediately his mind went to bad places. He decided that she looked suspicious. There was no real reason for this. Maya was just walking to the library, like she did every week. But Rawlings did not care about facts. He cared about his own wrong beliefs. Maya crossed the street and was about to turn the corner toward the library when she heard a voice behind her. "Hey! Stop right there!" Maya turned around and saw Officer Rawlings walking toward her. His hand was on his belt, and his face looked angry. Maya felt confused. She had not done anything wrong. "Yes, sir," Maya said politely. Her father had taught her to always be calm and respectful, even when she was scared. "Where do you think you're going with that bag?" Rawlings asked. His voice was hard and cold. "I'm going to the library, sir. I have some books to return." Maya held up her backpack to show him. "Library, huh?" Rawlings said with a mean smile. "Let me see what's really in that bag." Maya felt her heart beat faster. She had not done anything wrong. Why was this officer treating her like a criminal? But she remembered her father's words. "Stay calm, be polite, and do what the officer says." "Of course, sir," Maya said. She took off her backpack and held it out to him. Rawlings grabbed the bag roughly and opened it. He pulled out the 3 library books and looked at them. His face showed disappointment for a moment. He had wanted to find something bad, but there was nothing. Just books. But Rawlings was not going to let this go. He did not want to admit that he had made a mistake. He did not want to admit that he had stopped this girl for no good reason. "Where did you get these books?" he demanded. "From the library, sir. I checked them out 2 weeks ago. My library card is in the front pocket of the bag if you want to see it." Rawlings ignored her. "I think these books are stolen. I'm going to have to take you in for questioning." Maya's eyes went wide with shock. "Stolen? Sir, I did not steal anything. These are library books. Mrs. Patterson can tell you." "Don't talk back to me," Rawlings shouted. He grabbed Maya's arm tightly. You're coming with me. Maya felt tears forming in her eyes. This was not right. This was not fair. She had done nothing wrong. She was just a girl walking to the library. Why was this happening to her? Sir, please, Maya said, her voice shaking. I didn't do anything. Please, you can call my father. He can explain. I don't need to call anyone, Rawlings said. I know what I see! And I see a thief. By now, several people on the street had stopped to watch. Mr. Garcia, who had seen Maya walk by earlier, came closer. Officer! I know this girl! Mr. Garcia said. She lives on Maple Street. She's a good kid. She goes to the library every Saturday. Mind your own business! Rawlings snapped at him. This doesn't concern you. Mr. Garcia looked at Maya with worried eyes, but stepped back. He did not want to make things worse for her. Rawlings pulled Maya toward his police car. Maya was crying now, but she tried to stay calm. She knew that fighting back would only make things worse. Her father had told her stories about what could happen when black people did not stay calm around police officers. She did not want to become one of those stories. Please, sir, Maya begged. Just call the library. They can tell you that I checked out those books. Please. Rawlings did not listen. He opened the back door of his police car and pushed Maya inside. She sat on the hard plastic seat and looked out the window at the people watching. She felt ashamed, even though she had done nothing wrong. She felt scared and alone. Rawlings got into the front seat and picked up his radio. Dispatch, this is Unit 47. I have a juvenile suspect in custody for suspected theft. I'm bringing her in. The radio crackled. Copy that! Unit 47! What's the suspect's name? Rawlings looked back at Maya. What's your name? Girl! Maya Johnson, she said quietly. Rawlings repeated the name into the radio and then started the car. As they drove away from Main Street, Maya looked out the window and wondered how this had happened. She had just wanted to go to the library. She had just wanted to get a new book. At the Greenwood police station, things were about to change in ways that Officer Derek Rawlings never expected. He did not know who Maya's father was. He did not know that the name Johnson meant something important in this town. He was about to find out. The station was busy that Saturday morning. Officers were coming and going. Phones were ringing, and people were filling out reports. Sergeant Tom Miller was sitting at the front desk when Rawlings walked in with Maya. What do we have here? Sergeant Miller asked, looking at the crying teenager. Juvenile theft suspect, Rawlings said proudly. Caught her walking down Main Street with a bag full of stolen books. Sergeant Miller looked at Maya. She was wearing a nice blue dress and white sneakers. She did not look like a thief. She looked like a scared kid. What's your name, sweetheart? Sergeant Miller asked gently. Maya Johnson, sir, Maya said. And I didn't steal anything? Those are library books? I was taking them back to the library. Sergeant Miller's face went pale when he heard the name Johnson. He looked at Rawlings with wide eyes, but Rawlings did not notice. He was too busy filling out paperwork. Did you say Joneses? Sergeant Miller asked carefully. Yes, sir. My father is James Johnson. Sergeant Miller almost fell off his chair. James Johnson. Chief James Johnson. The chief of police for the entire Greenwood Police Department. Rawlings had just arrested the chief's daughter. Rawlings, Sergeant Miller said slowly. Can I talk to you for a moment? Not now, Miller. I'm busy with this suspect. Rawlings, Miller said again, his voice more urgent. I really think you should come here. Right now! Something in Miller's voice made Rawlings stop. He looked at the sergeant and saw the fear in his eyes. What was going on? Before Rawlings could move, the front doors of the station opened, and a tall black man walked in. He was wearing a police uniform, but not just any uniform. This uniform had gold stars on the collar and a badge that said Chief of Police. Chief James Johnson had been at a community event when he received a phone call from Mr. Garcia. Garcia had told him what happened to Maya. The chief had left the event immediately and driven to the station as fast as he could. When Chief Johnson walked through those doors, the entire room went silent. Everyone stopped what they were doing. They all knew the chief, and they all saw the look on his face. He was beyond angry. He was furious. Rawlings stood frozen by the desk. He still did not understand what was happening. He saw the chief walking toward him, but he did not connect the dots. Not yet. "Where is my daughter?" Chief Johnson asked. His voice was quiet, but there was power behind every word. Rawlings finally understood. His face went white as all the blood drained from it. He had arrested the chief's daughter. He had called the chief's daughter a thief. He had put his hands on the chief's daughter. He was finished. Maya saw her father and ran to him. "Daddy!" she cried, throwing her arms around him. "I didn't do anything wrong! I was just going to the library!" Chief Johnson hugged his daughter tightly. He could feel her shaking in his arms. He could see the tears on her face. Someone had hurt his baby girl. Someone in his own department. "I know, sweetheart," he said softly. "I know you didn't do anything wrong. It's going to be okay now. Daddy's here?" Rawlings stood there, not knowing what to do. His mouth opened and closed, but no words came out. He looked around for help, but no one would meet his eyes. Everyone in that room knew what he had done, and no one was going to defend him. Chief Johnson looked at his daughter's arm where Rawlings had grabbed her. There were red marks on her skin. Someone had grabbed his daughter hard enough to leave marks. The chief felt his anger grow even stronger. He turned to look at Officer Derek Rawlings, and for a moment, nobody in that room breathed. This was going to be bad. Everyone knew it. The question was, how bad? Chief James Johnson was not a man who lost his temper often. He had learned a long time ago that anger could make you do stupid things. He had built his entire career on being calm, professional, and fair. But right now, looking at the fear on his daughter's face and the red marks on her arm, he felt closer to losing control than he had in years. He took a deep breath and forced himself to stay calm. He was the chief of police. He had to handle this the right way. Not for Rawlings' sake, but for his own. And for Maya's. "Sergeant Miller," Chief Johnson said, his voice steady and controlled. "Please take my daughter to my office. Get her some water and a blanket if she needs one. I will be there in a few minutes." "Yes, Chief," Miller said quickly. He stood up and gently led Maya toward the back of the station. Maya looked back at her father, worried about what he might do. "It's okay, baby," the chief said to her. "I'm just going to have a conversation with Officer Rawlings. I'll be there soon." Once Maya was out of sight, Chief Johnson turned his full attention to Rawlings. The officer was shaking. He kept trying to speak, but the words would not come out. "My office now," the chief said. There was no room for argument in his voice. Rawlings followed the chief like a scared puppy. Every officer in the room watched them walk by. Some of them shook their heads. Others whispered to each other. Everyone knew that Rawlings had made the biggest mistake of his life. When they reached the chief's office, Johnson held the door open and waited for Rawlings to enter. Then he closed the door behind them and stood there, looking at the officer who had hurt his daughter. "Sit down!" the chief ordered. Rawlings sat in the chair across from the chief's desk. His legs were shaking so badly that he was glad to be sitting. Chief Johnson did not sit. He stood over Rawlings, looking down at him with eyes that could cut through steel. "Tell me exactly what happened," the chief said. "From the beginning, and do not lie to me." "Rawlings, I will find out the truth, one way or another." Rawlings swallowed hard. His mouth was dry, and his heart was pounding. I was on patrol on Main Street," he started. "I saw a juvenile walking with a backpack. She looked suspicious." "Suspicious," the chief repeated. "In what way did my daughter look suspicious?" Rawlings knew he was trapped. There was no good answer to this question. He could not tell the truth, which was that Maya had looked suspicious to him simply because she was black. But he could not lie either, because the chief would see right through him. "I don't know, Chief." Something just seemed off. Something seemed off, the chief said slowly. "So you stopped her? Then what?" "I asked to see what was in her bag. She showed me some books. I thought they might be stolen." "Did you ask her where she got the books?" "Yes, sir." She said they were library books. "And did you believe her?" Rawlings hesitated. "No, sir. I thought she was lying." "Why would a 16-year-old girl lie about having library books?" the chief asked. "Did she seem nervous? Did she try to run away? Did she do anything that a thief would do?" "No, sir," Rawlings admitted. She was very polite." "So you had a polite teenage girl with library books in her bag, and you decided she was a thief. Then you grabbed her, put her in your car, and brought her here like a criminal. Is that correct?" Rawlings could not speak. He just nodded. Chief Johnson leaned in close. "Let me tell you something, Officer Rawlings. I have been on this police force for 30 years. I have worked my way up from the bottom. I have faced more challenges and more obstacles than you could ever imagine. And do you know what the biggest challenge was? It was people like you." Rawlings looked confused. "Sir, people who look at someone like me, or like my daughter, and see a criminal before they see a person? People who judge others by the color of their skin instead of the content of their character. I have worked my entire career to change things in this department, to make sure that every person in this town is treated fairly by the police. And then you come along and do this." The chief straightened up and walked to the window. He looked out at the parking lot, trying to control his emotions. "Do you know what my daughter was doing this morning, Rawlings? She was going to the library, just like she does every Saturday. She loves to read. She wants to be a writer someday. She is one of the best students in her class. And she has never been in trouble a single day in her life." "Chief, I'm so sorry," Rawlings started. "I'm not finished," the chief said sharply. He turned back to face Rawlings. "My daughter is a good person. She is kind and smart and hardworking. But none of that mattered to you, did it?" All you saw was a black girl with a bag? And in your mind, that was enough to make her a criminal. Rawlings hung his head in shame. There was nothing he could say. Everything the chief said was true. I have spent my whole life teaching my daughter how to act around police officers. The chief continued. I've told her to be polite, to be respectful, to keep her hands visible, to do everything the officer says, even if the officer is wrong. Do you know why? I had to teach her those things. Rawlings did not answer. Because I was afraid of what might happen to her if she didn't. I was afraid that some officer, someone just like you, might hurt her or worse. And today, my worst fear almost came true. In my own town, in my own police department, the chief sat down at his desk and looked at Rawlings with cold eyes. You are finished, Rawlings. Do you understand me? Your career is over. I will not have officers like you serving in my department. Please, Chief Rawlings begged. I have a family. I need this job. You should have thought about that before you grabbed my daughter and called her a thief, the chief said. But this is not about my daughter anymore. This is about every black person in this town who might be treated the way you treated her. This is about every citizen who deserves to be treated fairly by the police. You have shown me who you really are, Rawlings, and I cannot allow someone like you to wear this badge. There was a knock at the door. Sergeant Miller opened it and looked inside. Chief! The mayor is on the phone. He heard about what happened. The chief nodded. Tell him I'll call him back in 5 minutes. He turned back to Rawlings. You are suspended without pay, effective immediately. Turn in your badge and your gun! To Sergeant Miller. Internal Affairs will be investigating this incident, and I expect they will recommend termination. You are dismissed. Rawlings stood up slowly. His whole world was falling apart. He had worked so hard to become a police officer, and now it was all over. Because of one mistake, because of one decision. But even now, even as he faced the end of his career, Rawlings did not fully understand what he had done wrong. He still believed, deep down, that he had been right to be suspicious of Maya. He still believed that people like her were different, dangerous, not to be trusted. That was the real tragedy. Rawlings was losing his job, but he was not learning anything. He was not changing. He was just angry that he had been caught. As Rawlings left the chief's office, he passed by Maya, who was sitting with Sergeant Miller. She looked up at him with sad eyes. There was no anger in her face. No hatred. Just sadness. That look would haunt Rawlings for a long time. But it would not change him. After Rawlings was gone, Chief Johnson went to check on his daughter. He found her in his office, wrapped in a blanket, holding a cup of hot chocolate. Her tears had dried, but her eyes were still red. Hey! Baby girl! The chief said softly. He sat down next to her and put his arm around her shoulders. What's going to happen to him, Daddy? Maya asked. He's going to be fired, the chief said. He's going to lose his job. Maya nodded slowly. Good. What he did was wrong. Yes, it was. Very wrong. And I'm so sorry it happened to you. I'm so sorry I wasn't there to protect you. It's not your fault, Daddy, Maya said. You can't be everywhere at once! The chief smiled sadly. I know, but I still feel like I should have done something. I became the chief of police because I wanted to make things better. I wanted to make sure that officers like Rawlings couldn't hurt people like you. But I failed today. You didn't fail? Maya said. You caught him. You stopped him. And now he can't hurt anyone else. The chief looked at his daughter with pride. She was so strong, so brave. Even after everything that had happened, she was thinking about other people, not just herself. When did you get so wise? He asked. Maya shrugged. I read a lot of books. They both laughed. And for a moment, things felt almost normal. But they both knew that this day had changed something. It had reminded them that no matter how much progress was made, there were still people like Rawlings out there. There were still battles to be fought. Daddy? Maya said after a while. Can we still go to the library? I really wanted to get that new book. The chief smiled. Of course, sweetheart. Let me just make a few phone calls, and then we'll go together. No one is going to stop you from getting your book. Not today. Not ever. Maya hugged her father tightly. Thank you, Daddy, for everything. Thank you, baby girl, the chief said, for being so brave, for making me proud every single day. As they sat together in the quiet of the chief's office, the sun continued to shine outside. It was still a beautiful day, and despite everything that had happened, Maya knew that things were going to be okay. She had her father, she had her books, and she had her future. No one could take that away from her. Not Rawlings, not anyone. But there was still more to come. The story was not over yet. In the days ahead, Maya and her father would face new challenges. They would have to deal with the media, the community, and the hard questions about race and justice in their town. And Maya would have to decide what she wanted to do with her experience. Would she let it break her, or would she let it make her stronger? The answer would come soon. But first, she had a book to get. The days after Maya's arrest were not easy. Word spread quickly through Greenwood about what had happened. Some people were angry at Officer Rawlings. Others said that Maya must have done something to deserve being stopped. The town was divided, and emotions were running high. Maya tried to go back to her normal life. She went to school on Monday, hoping that no one would talk about what had happened. But as soon as she walked through the doors of Greenwood High School, she knew that was impossible. Hey, Maya! I heard you got arrested, a boy named Tommy called out from across the hallway. He was laughing like it was funny. Maya felt her face get hot. She wanted to disappear. She wanted to be invisible. But she forced herself to keep walking with her head held high. She had done nothing wrong. She had nothing to be ashamed of. Her best friend, Jessica, was waiting for her at her locker. Jessica was a white girl with red hair and freckles. She and Maya had been friends since kindergarten, and nothing could break their bond. Are you okay? Jessica asked, giving Maya a hug. I heard what happened. That was so messed up. I'm okay, Maya said, though she was not sure if that was true. I just want everyone to stop talking about it. They'll find something else to gossip about soon, Jessica said. Remember when Marcus accidentally set his lunch on fire in the cafeteria? Everyone talked about that for weeks. Now no one even remembers. Maya smiled a little. Jessica always knew how to make her feel better. But as the day went on, Maya realized that this was different from Marcus and his lunch fire. This was about race. This was about police. This was about things that adults argued about on the news. And people had strong opinions. In her history class, Mrs. Williams decided to have a discussion about police and community relations. She asked the students to share their thoughts on how police should treat citizens. "I think the police have a hard job," a boy named Kevin said. "They never know if someone is going to hurt them. They have to be careful. But that doesn't mean they can treat innocent people like criminals." A girl named Destiny responded, "Maya didn't do anything wrong, and that cop treated her like a thief? That's not right." "How do we know she didn't do anything wrong?" another boy, Jake, asked. "Maybe the cop saw something we don't know about." "Jake, I was literally carrying library books," Maya said, unable to stay quiet any longer. "I was walking to the library like I do every Saturday. I didn't do anything suspicious. He stopped me because I'm black." The room went silent. Everyone looked at Maya. Some looked sympathetic. Others looked uncomfortable. A few looked like they disagreed but were afraid to say anything. "Maya, I'm sorry that happened to you," Mrs. Williams said gently. "What you experience is called racial profiling, and it's a real problem in our country. Officer Rawlings made assumptions about you based on your race, not your behavior. That is wrong, and it is illegal. But not all cops are like that, right?" Kevin asked. "My uncle is a cop, and he's a good guy." "Of course not," Mrs. Williams said. "There are many good police officers who treat everyone fairly. But we have to acknowledge that racial profiling exists and that it hurts people. We have to work together to fix it." After class, Maya felt exhausted. She had never wanted to be the center of attention. She had never wanted to be a symbol of anything. She just wanted to be a normal teenager who loved books and dreamed of becoming a writer. But sometimes, life had other plans. That evening, Chief Johnson came home, looking tired. He had spent the whole day dealing with the aftermath of the incident. The media had picked up the story, and reporters were calling the station nonstop. The mayor had called 3 times to ask how the chief was handling things. "How was school, sweetheart?" the chief asked Maya as they sat down for dinner. "It was hard," Maya admitted. "Everyone was talking about what happened. Some people think I must have done something wrong." The chief put down his fork and looked at his daughter. "Listen to me, Maya. You did nothing wrong. Nothing. The people who think otherwise are wrong, and they are part of the problem. Don't let them make you doubt yourself." "I know, Daddy, but it still hurts." "I know it does, baby! And I wish I could take that hurt away. But I can't. What I can do is promise you that I will keep fighting to make things better. That's why I became a police officer in the first place. That's why I worked so hard to become chief. Because I want a world where my daughter can walk to the library without being afraid." Maya reached across the table and took her father's hand. I love you, Daddy. I love you too, sweetheart. More than anything in the world. The next few weeks were a whirlwind of activity. The media attention grew bigger and bigger. Maya's story was on the local news, then the national news. People from all over the country were talking about what had happened in Greenwood. Some people praised Chief Johnson for how he handled the situation. They said he was a hero for standing up against racism in his own department. Others criticized him. They said he was only protecting his daughter and that he would not have cared if it had happened to someone else's child. That's not true, Maya told Jessica one day at school. My dad cares about everyone. He's been fighting against racism his whole career. Long before this happened to me. I know, Jessica said. But some people don't want to see the truth. They just want to believe what they want to believe. Internal Affairs completed their investigation of Officer Rawlings. They found that he had a history of complaints against him, mostly from Black and Hispanic citizens who said he had treated them unfairly. None of those complaints had ever resulted in serious action against him. He had been given warnings and extra training, but he had kept his job. Until now. Rawlings was officially terminated from the Greenwood Police Department. He did not go quietly. He gave interviews to anyone who would listen, claiming that he was being treated unfairly. He said that Chief Johnson was using his power to destroy him. He said that Maya had been disrespectful and aggressive and that he had done nothing wrong. These lies made Maya angry. She wanted to respond, to tell everyone the truth, but her father advised her to stay quiet. Don't sink to his level, the chief said. The truth is on our side. People who matter will see that. Maya tried to follow her father's advice, but it was hard. She watched as some people believed Rawlings' lies. She saw comments on the internet calling her names and saying she deserved what happened. It hurt more than she wanted to admit. One day, Maya came home from school and found her mother, Linda, sitting in the living room with a woman Maya did not recognize. The woman was well-dressed and carried a briefcase. Maya, this is Mrs. Patricia Stone, Linda said. She's a civil rights attorney. She wants to talk to us about what happened. Maya sat down warily. What kind of talk? Mrs. Stone smiled warmly. Maya, what happened to you was a violation of your civil rights. Officer Rawlings stopped you without probable cause and detained you illegally. You may have a case against him and possibly against the police department. A case? Maya asked. You mean like a lawsuit? Yes. A lawsuit could hold Rawlings accountable for what he did. It could also push the police department to make changes so this doesn't happen to someone else. Maya looked at her mother, then at her father, who had just come into the room. What do you think, Daddy? Maya asked. Chief Johnson looked conflicted. On one hand, he wanted justice for his daughter. On the other hand, a lawsuit against his own department would be complicated and difficult. This is your decision, Maya, he said finally. Whatever you decide, I will support you. Maya thought about it for a long time. She thought about all the other kids who might be stopped by officers like Rawlings. She thought about all the people who had filed complaints against him that had been ignored. She thought about what she could do to make a difference. I want to do it, Maya said finally. I want to file the lawsuit. Not for me, but for everyone who couldn't fight back. Mrs. Stone nodded approvingly. You're a brave young woman, Maya. This won't be easy, but I believe it's the right thing to do. And so, a new chapter of Maya's story began. She was not just a girl who loved books anymore. She was a girl who was fighting for justice. A girl who was standing up against a system that had tried to break her. But she was not alone. She had her family, her friends, and a whole community of people who believed in her. Together, they would face whatever came next. And deep down, Maya knew that no matter how hard it got, she was going to win. Because the truth was on her side. And in the end, the truth always won. Or at least, that was what she believed. The road ahead would test that belief in ways she never expected. The lawsuit brought more attention to Maya and her family than they had ever experienced. Reporters camped outside their house. Camera crews followed Maya to school. Everyone wanted to hear her story, and everyone had an opinion about it. Some people called Maya a hero. They said she was brave for standing up against police abuse. They sent her letters of support from all over the country. Some of the letters made Maya cry with gratitude, but other people called her a troublemaker. They said she was just looking for attention or money. They sent her hateful messages that her parents tried to hide from her, but she saw some of them anyway. Those messages made her cry too, but with a different kind of tears. Through it all, Maya tried to stay focused on what mattered. She kept going to school. She kept reading her books. She kept dreaming about becoming a writer. She was not going to let this experience define her entire life, but she was also not going to pretend it had not changed her. One day, about a month after the lawsuit was filed, Maya was sitting in the school library when a younger student approached her. The girl was black, probably about 12 or 13 years old. She looked nervous. "Are you Maya Johnson?" the girl asked. "Yes," Maya said. "I just wanted to say thank you for what you're doing." Maya was surprised. "Thank you. For what?" "My brother was stopped by a police officer last year," the girl said quietly. "He didn't do anything wrong either. But nobody believed him. Nobody cared. When I saw your story on the news, it made me feel like maybe things can change. Maybe people will start listening." Maya felt tears come to her eyes. She reached out and hugged the girl. "What's your name?" "Destiny." "Destiny, I'm sorry about your brother. I hope things get better for him. And I hope what I'm doing makes a difference. But you know what? You can make a difference too. Don't ever let anyone make you feel like you don't matter, because you do." Destiny smiled. "Thank you, Maya." After the girl left, Maya sat in the library for a long time, thinking. She had never wanted to be a role model or an activist. She had just wanted to go to the library and get a book. But life had given her a different path. And maybe that was okay. Maybe this was what she was meant to do. Maybe her story could help other people. Other kids like Destiny and her brother. Maybe all of this pain and struggle could lead to something good. That night, Maya told her parents about her conversation with Destiny. Her mother cried. Her father hugged her tight. "I'm so proud of you, sweetheart," Chief Johnson said. "You have turned something terrible into something meaningful. That takes real strength." "I learned it from you, Daddy," Maya said. "You've been fighting for justice your whole life. I'm just following your example." The chief smiled, but there was sadness in his eyes. "I just wish you didn't have to fight so young. You should be worrying about homework and friends and what dress to wear to the school dance. Not about lawsuits and racism and police brutality." "I know," Maya said, "but this is my reality. and I'm going to face it head on. The lawsuit process was long and complicated. There were meetings with lawyers, depositions, and endless paperwork. Mrs. Stone worked hard to build a strong case against Rawlings and the police department. During the depositions, Maya had to tell her story over and over again. She had to describe exactly what happened that Saturday morning. Every word that was said, every feeling she had. It was painful, but she did it. Rawlings' lawyer tried to make Maya look bad. He asked her questions designed to confuse her or make her seem dishonest. But Maya stayed calm and told the truth. Her father had taught her well. Isn't it true that you have a history of getting in trouble at school? The lawyer asked during one deposition. No, that's not true, Maya said firmly. I have never been in trouble at school. I'm on the honor roll. But you were suspended last year, weren't you? No, I was not. I have never been suspended. The lawyer looked uncomfortable. He had been trying to make things up, hoping Maya would get confused. But she knew her own life, and she was not going to let anyone twist it. After months of legal battles, the case finally went to court. It was a civil trial, not a criminal one, so there was no jury. A judge would decide the outcome. The courtroom was packed on the first day of the trial. Reporters, community members, and curious onlookers filled every seat. Maya sat at the plaintiff's table with her parents and Mrs. Stone. Rawlings sat across the room with his lawyer. Maya looked at Rawlings for the first time since that day at the police station. He looked older, tired, and angry. He still did not seem to understand what he had done wrong. He still believed he was a victim. Maya felt sorry for him, in a way. He was so lost in his own hatred and fear that he could not see the truth. But her sympathy only went so far. He had hurt her, and he had probably hurt many others. He needed to face consequences for his actions. The trial lasted 5 days. Mrs. Stone presented evidence of Rawlings' pattern of racial profiling. She called witnesses who had been stopped by him for no good reason. She showed records of complaints that had been filed against him and ignored. Rawlings' lawyer tried to argue that these were all isolated incidents. That Rawlings was a good officer who had made one mistake. But the evidence was overwhelming. On the final day, Maya was called to testify. She walked to the witness stand, her heart pounding but her head held high. She looked out at the courtroom and saw her parents smiling at her with encouragement. Maya, can you tell us in your own words what happened on the morning of September 5th? Mrs. Stone asked. Maya took a deep breath and began to speak. She told the whole story. From the moment she left her house to the moment her father arrived at the police station, she described how Rawlings had grabbed her arm, how he had called her a thief, how he had refused to listen when she tried to explain. How did this experience make you feel? Mrs. Stone asked. Maya paused. This was the hardest part. It made me feel like I didn't matter, she said finally. Like no matter how good I was, no matter how hard I tried, someone would always look at me and see a criminal just because of the color of my skin. It made me feel scared and angry and sad. It made me question everything I believed about the world. The courtroom was silent. Even Rawlings seemed affected by Maya's words, though he quickly looked away. But it also made me stronger, Maya continued. It made me realize that I have to fight for myself and for others who can't fight. It made me understand why my father chose to become a police officer, because he wanted to make things better. And now I want to make things better too. After all the testimony was finished, the judge took a week to make his decision. It was the longest week of Maya's life. She could barely eat or sleep. She tried to read, but she could not focus on the words. Finally, the day of the verdict arrived. Maya and her family returned to the courtroom. This time, it was even more crowded than before. Everyone wanted to see how this story would end. The judge, an older white man named Judge Harrison, entered the courtroom and took his seat. He looked serious and thoughtful. "I have considered all the evidence presented in this case," Judge Harrison said. "I have listened to the testimony of the witnesses, and I have reviewed the records of Officer Rawlings's conduct. I am now prepared to render my verdict." Maya held her breath. Her mother gripped her hand tightly. "I find in favor of the plaintiff, Maya Johnson," the judge said. Maya felt tears of relief streaming down her face. She had won. The judge continued. "The evidence clearly shows that Officer Rawlings stopped Miss Johnson without probable cause and detained her illegally. His actions were motivated by racial bias, not legitimate law enforcement concerns. This kind of conduct is unacceptable and must not be tolerated." The judge ordered Rawlings to pay damages to Maya and her family. He also ordered the police department to implement new training programs on racial profiling and to create a citizen review board to oversee complaints against officers. As Maya left the courtroom, surrounded by reporters and supporters, she felt something she had not felt in a long time. Hope. Maybe things could change. Maybe her story had made a difference. Her father put his arm around her and smiled. "You did it, sweetheart. You really did it. We did it, Daddy," Maya said. "Together." And as they walked out into the sunshine, Maya knew that her story was not ending. It was just beginning. She had found her voice, and she was going to use it. For herself. For destiny. For everyone who had ever been treated unfairly because of who they were. The racist cop had tried to break her, but instead, he had made her stronger. And that was a victory that no one could ever take away. It had been 2 years since the trial, and life in Greenwood had changed in many ways. The police department had undergone major reforms. The Citizen Review Board was now active and effective. Complaints against officers were taken seriously, investigated thoroughly, and acted upon. Chief James Johnson had become a national figure, speaking at conferences and advising other police departments on how to build trust with their communities. Maya Johnson was now 18 years old and about to graduate from high school. She had been accepted to several top universities, but she had chosen to attend Howard University in Washington, D.C. She wanted to study journalism and eventually become a writer who told important stories about justice and equality. On the morning of her graduation, Maya stood in front of a bedroom mirror, adjusting her cap and gown. She looked at herself and smiled. She had grown so much in the past 2 years. She was no longer the scared girl who had been dragged into a police car. She was a strong young woman with a voice and a purpose. Her mother knocked on the door and came in. "You look beautiful, sweetheart. Are you ready?" "I think so," Maya said. "It feels weird. Like one chapter of my life is ending and a new one is beginning." "That's exactly what's happening," Linda said. "And I couldn't be more proud of the woman you've become." At the graduation ceremony, Maya was surprised to learn that she had been chosen to give a speech as the class valedictorian. She had known she was at the top of a class, but she had not expected this honor. When it was her turn to speak, Maya walked to the podium and looked out at the crowd. She saw her parents in the front row, beaming with pride. She saw Jessica, who was crying happy tears. She saw teachers who had supported her and friends who had stood by her. And in the back, she saw a familiar face. It was Destiny. the young girl from the library. She was sitting with her family, including her brother, who was now in high school himself. They had become friends over the past 2 years, bonded by their shared experiences. Maya took a deep breath and began to speak. 2 years ago, something happened to me that changed my life, she said. I was stopped by a police officer while walking to the library. I was called a thief. I was treated like a criminal, all because of the color of my skin. The audience was silent, listening intently. For a long time, I felt angry and scared and confused. I didn't understand why this had happened to me. I had done everything right. I had followed all the rules. And still, someone looked at me and saw only my race, not my humanity. Maya paused, gathering her thoughts. But I learned something important from that experience. I learned that injustice doesn't disappear just because you follow the rules. I learned that change doesn't happen unless someone is willing to stand up and fight for it. And I learned that my voice matters, even when people try to silence it. She looked at her father and smiled. I also learned that there are good people in the world who will stand with you when times are hard. My family, my friends, my teachers, and my community all supported me when I needed it most. They reminded me that I was not alone, and that, together, we could make a difference. Maya turned to address her classmates directly. To my fellow graduates, I want to say this. You all have a voice. You all have the power to change the world. It doesn't matter if you're going to college or starting a job or taking a different path. What matters is that you use your voice for good. Stand up for what's right, even when it's hard. Speak out against injustice, even when others stay silent. And never, ever let anyone make you feel like you don't matter. She took a deep breath and concluded her speech. I'm going to college to become a journalist because I believe that stories have power. I believe that when we share our stories, we connect with each other and we inspire change. My story inspired me to fight for justice. I hope it inspires you too. The audience erupted in applause. Maya's parents stood up, tears streaming down their faces. Jessica was jumping up and down, cheering. Even some of the teachers were wiping their eyes. After the ceremony, there was a reception in the school gymnasium. Maya was surrounded by well-wishers, everyone wanting to shake her hand and congratulate her. Chief Johnson made his way through the crowd and hugged his daughter. That was the most beautiful speech I've ever heard, he said. Your grandmother would have been so proud of you. Maya's grandmother had passed away the year before, but she had lived long enough to see Maya's victory in court. She had always told Maya that she was destined for great things, and now Maya was starting to believe it. Thanks, Daddy, Maya said. I meant every word. Later that evening, the Johnson family had a private celebration at home. It was just Maya, her parents, and a few close family friends. They ate cake and shared memories and talked about the future. So, Maya, her father said, any regrets about the past 2 years? Anything you would have done differently? Maya thought about it for a moment. I wish I hadn't had to go through it at all, she said honestly. But since it happened, I'm glad I fought back. I'm glad I didn't stay silent. And I'm glad I had all of you to support me. We'll always support you, her mother said, no matter what. As the night went on and the guests went home, Maya sat on the porch with her father, looking up at the stars. Daddy, do you think things have really changed? She asked. Or will people like Rawlings always exist? The chief sighed. Honestly, sweetheart, I think there will always be people who hold hatred in their hearts. But I also think that we can change the systems that give them power. We can create accountability. We can educate people. We can make it harder for one person's prejudice to hurt others. That's what you've been doing your whole career, Maya said. And now it's what you'll be doing too, her father replied. In your own way. With your own voice. I believe in you, Maya. More than I've ever believed in anything. Maya leaned her head on her father's shoulder. I love you, Daddy! I love you too! Baby girl, always and forever. A few weeks later, Maya arrived at Howard University. The campus was beautiful and full of energy. She was nervous but excited. This was the beginning of a new chapter. On her first day, she walked into her journalism class and sat down. The professor, a distinguished black woman named Dr. Angela Wright, welcomed the students and asked them to introduce themselves. When it was Maya's turn, she stood up and said, My name is Maya Johnson. I'm from Greenwood, Ohio. And I'm here because I believe that stories can change the world. Dr. Wright smiled. That's exactly what we believe here too. Welcome to Howard, Maya. I have a feeling you're going to do great things. As Maya sat back down, she felt a sense of peace wash over her. She was exactly where she was supposed to be. All the pain and struggle of the past 2 years had led her to this moment, and she was just getting started. The story of Maya Johnson and the racist cop who tried to arrest her did not end with her going to college. It became part of a larger movement for police reform across the country. Maya's case was cited in academic papers and legal briefs. Her speech at graduation was shared millions of times on social media. She became a symbol of resilience and hope. Derek Rowling, Goozy officer who had started it all, never publicly apologized. He moved to a different state and tried to put the incident behind him. But his name would always be associated with what he had done. He could never fully escape the consequences of his actions. As for Chief James Johnson, he continued to serve as the police chief of Greenwood for another 10 years before retiring. Under his leadership, the department became a model for community policing. Other cities sent representatives to learn from Greenwood's example. And Maya, she graduated from Howard with honors and became a journalist for a major newspaper. She wrote stories about injustice and inequality, giving voice to people who had been silenced. She won awards for her work and was invited to speak at events around the world. But she never forgot where she came from. She never forgot that Saturday morning when she was just a girl walking to the library. She never forgot the fear and the shame and the anger. And she used those memories to fuel her fight for a better world. Because that was the lesson of her story. Bad things happen. Injustice exists. People can be cruel and unfair. But we have a choice in how we respond. We could let those experiences break us, or we could let them make us stronger. We can stay silent, or we can speak up. We can give up, or we can fight. Maya Johnson chose to fight. And that made all the difference. The racist cop who tried to arrest her thought he had all the power. He thought he could intimidate a young black girl and nothing would happen. He thought he was untouchable. But he was wrong. Because when Maya's father arrived at that police station, everything changed. The shock on Rawlings' face was just the beginning. The real shock was what came after. The trial! The verdict! the reforms, the movement. That was the shock of a lifetime. And it was a shock that Derek Rawlings would never forget. Neither would Maya. But for her, it was not just a shock. It was a beginning. The beginning of a life dedicated to justice, truth, and the belief that every person deserves to be treated with dignity and respect. And that is how the story ends. Not with anger or revenge, but with hope. Hope that things can change. Hope that the future can be better than the past. Hope that one person's courage can inspire a whole world. Maya Johnson found that hope on the darkest day of her young life. And she held on to it, nurtured it, and shared it with everyone she met. That is her legacy. That is her gift to the world. And it is a gift that will keep on giving for generations to come.